TNA altogether.
Okay.
Here's the question I had for you. Here's the big prediction I want you to make, because
Okay, interesting. I wasn't
for
expecting this.
long
Go on.
for long-term listeners, Dara has had a hell of a run of predictions the past 2 years, really.
It's wild, yeah, it really is.
Um, so in the
Okay.
past couple of weeks, we've seen obviously the very sad firing of Scott Demore. People were not happy about, but it turns out that a lot of other less well-known backstage people have also been let go in the past couple of weeks. People who deal with like pretty big roles, like live events and marketing and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And a lot of this seems like the kind of cost cutting that WWE was doing
Before they got sold.
before their big merger.
Now, I did
So
say
my
this.
question
I did
is,
say this. Now, here's the thing, Martin. I did already go on record and say that they were going to do this.
uh, so here we go. There's my question: Is TNA, is this a partnership, or is TNA being, are they kind of testing the waters and being prepped for a sale?
I believe I already said that they were. Um, but I'm going to put a caveat on this. I don't think they're going to be sold, hard sold, going under the WWE banner. What I think
Yeah.
will happen here is I think they will be sold like the way ECW was independent for years.
Yes.
Even though ECW wasn't independent, run almost exclusively by Vince, and nobody knew about it. So I think that's what's going to happen. And it honestly wouldn't shock me. I think obviously they'll scale back on stuff they don't need because WWE have those.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like the all the people they got rid of, like really um successful people. Like apparently the guy who they fired who does their live events. Apparently he used to do the live events for Cirque du Soleil. So these are like really qualified people who are very good at their jobs, and the only reason to get rid of them is if you're in a company that already has somebody doing that.
Well, I'll put it this way: the company that they're already under is like a major partner, if not like heavily associated with Endeavor anyway. So it's not too far outside the realms of possibility. I do think that there is more to this than has been let on. That there is the working relationship obviously has a lot more to this than just, oh yeah, they're doing the Forbidden Door thing. But then again, we don't know how much WWE has been invested in TNA the whole time. And there is a case of, well, how did they survive? Getting conspiratorial here. How did they actually survive all these things that should have killed the company? You have to ask yourself that.
Yeah.
They've never been hostile to TNA. WWE have never really been hostile
No.
to TNA.
No.
There's one or two jabs, all right, but that was never at the company. It was usually like, you know, at Christian Cage or something randomly. Um, so yeah, I would say a sale is very likely. What that sale looks like is something else. I don't think it's going to be like the shutdown. They're going to show up on Raw and it's going to be a third brand. I think it's going to be its own thing, owned by WWE, but not owned by WWE, if that makes sense. It won't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
WWE TNA.
Well, to be, if they're going to try and build it up and run some sort of invasion angle, you can't do an invasion angle if it is WWE TNA.
Yeah, you
It
can't do
has
that.
to be its own. It has to be at least in kayfabe its own thing.
But then again, like, here's the thing: kayfabe wouldn't stretch itself that much because TNA has always been its own thing. I think like history is a great teacher and failure is a great teacher, and the failure of the invasion angle and then the failure of WWE CW, like they're big lessons. And the lesson is like people like TNA because it's TNA. Would they like it if WWE took it over and gave it money and made sure it was stable? Yeah. Would they like it if they changed it into its own thing? Absolutely not. So that's the danger. I think it's the way Tony Khan is running Ring of Honor, for better or worse, where he's just kind of leaving Ring of Honor to be Ring of Honor. That's fine.
Yes.
That's totally
Yeah.
fine. Like, I mean, there are
And
things.
that's like you said, that's working better for them than when they really tried to integrate it.
Yeah, you can't
And,
really do that.
they had their guys spending a lot of time, on Dynamite, who are Ring of Honor guys and that, and it really, it kind of irked a lot of people.
Yeah, like
Um,
you can do it, but if you're going to do that, it has to be its own thing. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
exactly.
if like okay, for example, TNA when TNA broke off into like Global Force Wrestling and Impact Wrestling, well, why people didn't support that was because it was still TNA, and it's always like I was, hanging out with people in TNA last year at Glasgow, and they were saying, yeah, it's always been TNA backstage. Even when it
Yeah,
was Impact Wrestling, it was still TNA, and that mindset I think is something that is in the core fan base of these things, right? So, same in ECW. ECW was ECW. People knew what that was. Ring of Honor is the same thing. If you're going to have something that's completely different but using these elements, it has to be its own thing. They'd have to set up a new brand. Even NXT itself, when NXT was kind of transitioning from the sport into what it became, where it was like a proto AEW, that took a very long time for people to warm up to it. And then they really got
yeah,
passionate about it. And then it changed again. And that really annoyed people because it's like you've just changed the product. So I think enough to wrap up on this, I think enough time has passed and enough failures of these big projects, these big mergers have been done where they're like, look, we know what works, we know what doesn't work. And yeah, to answer your question, I'll go on record and say, is TNA being sold? Yes, more than likely. But I don't expect a bunch of lads from Impact to run out and start attacking someone on Raw. I don't think that, or having a versus pay per view or something like that. It won't happen. But what could happen is, and what probably is going to happen, you'll see talent show up in different places, which would be awesome.
yeah,
Unique matches which we wouldn't see anywhere else, and maybe the title showing up at different points. But how this becomes successful is that Impact Wrestling is its own thing. It's its own promotion run by its own people, and you never actually really know that's WWE. Don't have it on the network if you really have to, have it on Netflix or something like that. But don't.
yeah.
The worst thing they could do is fully integrate it. Is like you said.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that assessment. I would say, yeah, if it's going to be sold, it'll be something like that where WWE will just quietly acquire it,
Yeah,
but they won't. Yeah, they won't try and be part of the day to day creative, or as as Vince infamously said, in the weeds. He won't be in the weeds, and then the very next episode he was in the weeds. But
but
never
here's the
mind
thing.
that.
Like the
That
difference. The difference
they'll
was.
stay out of it until, like you say, maybe TNA, has a really hot star or someone, a really promising prospect, and you might see them show up at things like the Rumble or like this Jordan Grace thing, challenging for titles. So
Yeah,
I
like
mean, I think there's a lot of potential to
I'll
it.
put it this way, right? Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler's in TNA now, right? Having a
Mm.
phenomenal run.
So
Does it not make more sense that he's there and stars like Dolph Ziggler, who had to run in WWE, can't really do more, want to work with talent that maybe aren't there yet, go down, have a phenomenal run, get the product hot, and still is able to be used if they want them in different aspects. Like there's a lot of upside to having TNA as their feeder. And look, call a spade a spade. TNA has been WWE's feeder and by extension AEW's feeder for years. So it's more
oh
just kind of
yeah,
like just giving them more money so they're actually able to be stable rather than a sale. But the minute you start seeing WWE AEW presents, oh, that's bad. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. It needs to be completely separate and have TNA as even when it's on like a WWE show, be like, no, we're still TNA.
what do you think? So obviously stuff like this takes a lot of time. Sorry, and it be a while before it comes out. But in the meantime, do
Hmm.
you think we'll see a big uptick in TNA's viewership from WWE fans?
That's a tough question. There is a lot of cross, like TNA fans are TNA fans, first and foremost. right? They really don't like AEW like at all, which is hilarious. They're the most anti AEW people I've ever met, which is wild.
Is that just because
I don't know what it is.
AEW took like a lot of the top
I
guys,
don't know. I
or
don't know what it is, but they all love Jim Cornette and they hate AEW. So
ugh,
that was my that was my from speaking with the fan base at Glasgow. Um,
they all love Jim Cornette. They all
the,
love the same three jokes told over and over
I
for
Martin
4 hours.
Martin. I don't know. As I said, you should have come over to Glasgow and you could have interacted with these people yourself. But
Oh, I would have
I had
loved to.
I had a great time and we all had very interesting conversations. But the point I was saying was that they like what they like, and what they like is TNA, right? No matter what it is, once it's TNA. And look, and that's why it survives. Honestly, like if you're a TNA fan, it's not like you're a WWE fan and AW fan because that you were disappointed. You were there in the weeds. You were there in the you know what, and you have stuck through thick and thin. So you're there for life. Will it go to NXT? Probably, but TNA fans have to have a reason to go over. Jordan Grace competing is not really enough to bring those fans over because they're like, oh, she's gonna lose. But if she wins that belt, boom, there you go.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a
That's a
huge win.
shock
It's a
win.
huge win. And the reason, like Dave's brother was talking about it, and he was freaking out because Jordan Grace is on NXT, which I mean, fair, but he's a WWE fan through and through, right? So they're already hooked. But to get the NXT core, they're already hooked. To get TNA core over to NXT, Jordan Grace has to win. Has to win.
And if WWE is looking at acquiring them, like they might even do it they might do it through a third company. They might do it on the quiet or something.
I think
But
that'd be
if they
really
are
smart.
looking,
Really smart
if
to do
they
that, yeah.
yeah, but if they are looking at acquiring them, like why wouldn't they want to profile like the likes of Jordan Grace? If it's going to be their promotion, even by proxy, why wouldn't they want to profile some of the big stars
And
and
also
get people excited about them and get people watching
think
it?
about this as well, man. The tape library. Think of the DVDs you could get.
Oh,
The best of AJ Styles, all that footage upscaled and, clean. It would be unbelievable. It's the thing that makes the most sense in the world. But will it happen? I believe it will, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. I was going through the
and
comments. I was going through the comments on this channel, and someone commented the last time we were talking about WWE and Soul, and he goes, "Oh, uh, if you're right, I'll give you €5 or whatever." I'm like,
oh,
"Well," I called him
get
out on it.
into Patreon.
This is what I said. I called him out to it. So if you're listening,
You owe us a
you
fiver.
owe us a fiver. You might as well get. Or I even said for a tenner, you can get a note. So I mean, you can go to our Patreon. And Martin, what can you get if you give us a tenner? Because this guy already owes us a fiver. So
Well, he owes a six,
it's true.
I'd say,
It's true.
because I imagine like 99% of the population, he doesn't know what X Pac is shouting at the start of his entrance music. So he owes us the fiver that he promised you 2 years ago.
Yes.
And Lord only knows what that is with inflation now.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
Say £6,000. He owes us an X Pac euro. And if he wants to throw another €4 in on top of that, that'd bring him up to the Rennet tier.
The
Rennet
elite,
star
the all
for
elite
those
Renatir.
elite Rennet tier. And Rennet, for those who own mirrors, is a tenor spelt backwards.
It is.
So for the Rennet tier, you get to give us your legally distinct Buckley list.
Yes.
We'll read it out. We'll have a crack about it on the show. If you're available, we might even get you on to talk about it. But as well as that, pride of place in your home will be a handcrafted letter from the Wrestling Rewind crew, written backwards. I was about to say backwards, but I couldn't figure out what it was quick enough in my head. That's why when someone does send us this tenor, the letter's going to take about a month to get there.
You're gonna have to make your own device that like has the mirror pointed in just the right way that you're still able to write. This is
I'm
a
gonna
challenge.
I'm gonna need to lay like a carbon paper down on the mirror. I can write on it and it'll pop up backwards on the other side.
I'm looking forward to this. So look, you know who you are. I'm not going to call you out on the internet, but you did leave a comment. I was right, as I've been right about quite a lot of things, which is bizarre to be honest with you. I don't know how I inherited this gift of foresight, wrestling foresight. I wish it was for like the lotto numbers, something useful instead of wrestling. But there you go. You can send us a tenner, and it's kind of like winning the lotto, a very small lotto.
And
Um,
as a tenor, you might as well. You like you say,
that's
you
it.
already owe 6, and you don't want to owe a man from South Armagh